killing fields of southern Sudan, boys as young as 12 are fighting a war. They are the boy soldiers of the SPLA, children marching into Africa's longest and most brutal civil war. The soldiers have little to eat and even less to wear. Many have never been to school and cannot read or write and don't even know how old they are. But they have guns and are ready to kill. Some of their guns are captured from the enemy. Others are given to them by friendly governments in neighboring states. But the rebels are also armed by black market arms dealers around the world. As the civil strife continues and hundreds of thousands of people are starving to death, South African arms merchants seem to have found a lucrative market for their military hardware. Rumors have persisted for years that South African weapons dealers sell arms to the SPLA. Rebel leaders deny this, saying that they capture all their arms from the Muslim enemy in the north.
Like last year, we captured more than 3,000 rifles, G3 rifles. And these are the rifles we succeeded to arm some of our forces. We captured more than 16 tanks, T-55. And these are the weapons we have.
The SPLA has an estimated 25,000 soldiers under arms, and it is simply impossible that they could have captured all their weapons. Are not only used for waging war, but also to kill civilians, to loot, to rape. There are an estimated 1.5 to 2 million illegal guns in the area. Everybody in southern Sudan, it seems, has an AK-47. Sudan is the biggest country in Africa, stretching from desert in the north to lush forest in the south. It is a potentially rich land with a diversity of people. But for several years now, television viewers around the world have come to associate Sudan with images of hunger and starvation. At this very moment, hundreds of thousands of people are starving to death or are in urgent need of humanitarian aid. But Sudan is also home to Africa's so-called forgotten war. Since 1983, more than 1 million people have been killed in southern Sudan.
Well, I've been a fighter all my life. Even my children have joined me.
Land looked fertile and green. But for several years now, ordinary people have been unable to cultivate the land because of the war. These people are now starving to death. The famine in Sudan is mainly in one province, Bahr el-Ghazal, and it has been caused quite deliberately by one man, Carabino Ball. He was the SPLA commander for Bahr el-Ghazal, but defected to the Sudanese government in 1994 and became a general that was transporting food to the area. A day later, we joined up with soldiers and commanders of the SPLA who agreed to take us to the front line a few kilometers northeast of the strategic town of Wau. For kilometer after kilometer, the land was empty, and burnt-out villages bore witness to the havoc and destruction caused by Commander Carabino and his Arab militiamen. The front line turned out to be nothing more than a SPLA base in a deserted village. There was an enemy garrison 8 kilometers away, but except for the odd exchange of mortar fire and skirmishes between foot patrols, the front line was relatively quiet. The soldiers were amazed to see us with Mac.
They even goes further to ask me, now that they have come here and they have seen us, some of us.
The front line is riddled with landmines. This SPLA soldier stepped on an anti-personnel landmine. The remains of his foot was removed without anesthetic in a makeshift hospital. The SPLA has been condemned by international human rights organizations like Amnesty International for the killing and torture of civilians and for forcing young boys into its army against their will. During our stay, rebel soldiers were marching off towards Wau, a town occupied by the Sudanese army. A ceasefire has recently been declared in Bahr el-Ghazal, but like so many before, this one too might not hold.
In fact, I may not tell you how we can plan to take Wau, but as I can tell you that Wau, we can capture it at any time.
Our forces actually have surrounded the whole town of Wau, almost 4 kilometers away from the town.
For sure, there are going to be casualties to the civilians there inside, but we will try to minimize the casualties.
Yeah, when the orders come to strike, you see, on the move, we are ready to take Wau anytime.
Most Southerners would not agree with Machar. They are unemployed and say they are discriminated against. Although religious freedom is guaranteed in the Sudanese constitution, Islam is the state religion.
And even though in the church, you have to go and pray. After praying, back home. Don't talk about problem. Remain your tongue with you. If you enter into the policy, you're speaking some things badly, should be caught.
Both the SPLA and the People's Defense Force have recently claimed victories in the war. The Sudanese forces still hold 3 of the biggest towns in southern Sudan, but the rebels have made advances in the east. There is, however, no victor in this war. Weapons dealers justify their supply of weapons to the SPLA by saying that they are supporting Christians who are suppressed by a fundamentalist regime who want to impose Islam on them. According to documents we had found, he was at the time looking for an arsenal of weapons for the SPLA in return for a teak forest in southern Sudan. Stoffberg sent so-called shopping lists for tanks, missiles and mortars around the world. Ivan Whitehead and Luchi Fikuseku are registered Johannesburg weapons dealers with a long history and complicity with the Sudan People's Liberation Army. They were appointed as so-called technical advisors to the SPLA in 1993 and have arranged for the supply of weapons to the movement. They are unofficial ambassadors for the SPLA in South Africa. They also have several other clients in Africa, diamond mines in the neighboring Central African Republic, and business interests in Ethiopia. They refuse to participate in this program. As long as guns continue to flow into southern Sudan, there can be no peace and the local population will continue to suffer. More than 2 million people face starvation this year because of the effects of war. If the conflict continues, aid organizations say, more people may die next year.
We are really backward because no roads, no hospitals, no schools, but only starvation and fighting. It is pathetic. So it is really hurting, but there's nothing we can do. That's our land and that's when we were born in.
People like Makun Young face a bleak future. He started carrying a gun when he was only 12. He fled to Kenya at the end of 1993, entered school and passed matric. But he has no money and cannot continue his studies or find a job in Kenya. He doesn't even know whether he will ever see his parents again.
I always pray, God just protect my parents and maybe let them just survive with those kind of life and don't let them pass away without seeing them again.
Galiya, Galiya,